Ybor City, a place that feels like it's been through a few wars and came out swinging. This isn't your typical Main Street USA with baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet. Ybor City is more cigars, tattoo parlors, and streetcars. But it is a main street, and it does tell an American story. Ybor City is the real deal, scuffed and proud, where the ghosts of cigar rollers and revolutionaries still linger in the alleyways. I come here to walk along its streets, hear the sounds, and feel the history in person. Ybor was a melting pot before anyone called it that. Cubans, Italians, Spaniards, Germans, they all poured in, building a city within a city. What started as a wooden shanty town quickly grew into brick buildings and cobblestone roads, some of which still survive today. Ybor's got history in its bones. Founded in 1885 by Vincent Martinez Ybor, this was the cigar capital of the world by the 1900s, rolling out 700 million stogies a year. They used to read novels out loud in the cigar factories. Lectors, they called them, feeding the workers' minds while their hands shaped tobacco. This place wasn't just about cigars. It was about ideas, community, and culture. This street is one of the only places in America where you can still buy a hand-rolled cigar made the old way, right where it all started. It's not just nostalgia, it's defiance, a refusal to let the past fade away. In that common theme with many main streets across the U.S., the Great Depression and World War II took its toll on these main streets. The Great Depression devastated Ybor City's cigar industry. Demand for luxury cigars plummeted as consumers turned to cheaper cigarettes. Factories closed and many families left to find work elsewhere. By the 1960s and 1970s, Ybor City's population had dwindled, and its once thriving streets were eerily quiet, with vacant shops and fading glory. The free-roaming chickens are descendants from chickens the first settlers of Ybor City had, and the locals today are fiercely protective of them. The Columbia is the oldest restaurant in Florida, a living relic. It spans an entire city block with 15 dining rooms and a history of serving everyone from Babe Ruth to local mobsters. Here you can watch flamenco dancers while dining on authentic Spanish and Cuban cuisine. Ybor City experienced a revival starting in the 1980s as artists and entrepreneurs and restaurateurs saw potential in the historic buildings and low rents. Today, Ybor City's 7th Avenue is a bustling hub of nightlife, reminiscent of New Orleans' French Quarter. It's packed with bars, restaurants, tattoo parlors, and boutique shops, all set against a backdrop of historic brick architecture. The streets come alive with festivals like Guavaween, a nod to its Cuban heritage. Main Street USA isn't just a place, it's a feeling. A stubborn, messy, beautiful pulse that says you can still find something real. And Ybor City shows you that. It's not about knowing where you're going, it's about walking the street, listening to its stories, and finding your own. Ybor City's not perfect. It's got its scars and a stubborn heart. But Main Street lives here, in the smoke and the rhythm, and it's still kicking. Still telling you to pull up a chair, have a cigar, and stay a while. Plant City, Florida, a speck on the map where the strawberries are sweeter than sin and the past hangs heavy in the air, like smoke you can still smell after the fire's gone out. This is Main Street, USA, not the polished postcard, but the real deal. A place where the American dream still lingers, stubborn and unapologetic, in the creak of a diner door and the laughter of a weekend festival. Plant City's got a nickname, Winter Strawberry Capital of the World. They churn out millions of pounds of those ruby jewels every year. The Florida Strawberry Festival, born in 1930, draws 500,000 people to this town of 40,000. It's not just a fair, it's a pilgrimage, a tradition, a celebration of dirt, sweat, and sweetness. History runs deep here. Plant City was a crossroads, a hub for phosphate mines and citrus groves before strawberries stole the show. Named after railroader Henry Plant in 1885, at its height, there were 50 to 60 trains through here every day. In the 1920s, this depot saw trains loaded with berries bound for New York and Chicago, feeding the nation's hunger for Florida's winter gold. That reoccurring story echoes among the brick storefronts. Times change. The once bustling little town became a practical ghost town with little work and empty buildings. But humans are resourceful, if anything. New generations of ambitious entrepreneurs took advantage of low rent and the historic energy. Now you'll find shops, restaurants, coffee houses, a revitalized soul. Plant City's downtown is a time capsule. Buildings from the 1900s, some still wearing their original brick. Main Street, USA isn't just a street, it's a promise. A stubborn, messy, beautiful promise that you can still find something real in a world that's always rushing forward. Plant City reminds us of that. It's not perfect. It's not trying to be. But it is honest. And in a world that's always selling you something, that's enough. Main Street lives here. In the dirt, and the dreams, and it still has a pulse. I take the back roads. That's where new discoveries create new memories. That old abandoned building, being reclaimed by the vines and weeds trying their best to pull it back into the earth, once had a purpose where real people came and went. The mother who bought medicine for her sick child when that building was a new pharmacy. Or the farmer who made his final mortgage payment to the bank just next door. The buildings stand empty now, but I can imagine how they were a central part of this rural town of Webster, Florida. As with many small rural towns in Florida, the railroad played a big role in maintaining life. Here in Webster, the train carried citrus and other produce to the northern states. I walked down this now empty street that was once the bustling main street, lined with shops, cafes, hotels, complete with wooden sidewalks and Model Ts. Today, just a handful survive. The building on the left started as the Webster Pharmacy and Doctor's Office. Later, it was converted to the town library, a place that offered a way to see and learn about faraway places before things like television and smartphones gave us the world in the palm of our hands. Imagine the local farmer who depended on the library for the yearly edition of the Farmer's Almanac, or the teenager captivated by the works of Fitzgerald, Kipling, and Hemingway. Maybe the books inspired them to see the world in person, to leave this sleepy town and travel. Or maybe those books made them realize this is just where they want to be, where time feels slower and everyone knows your name. The building on the right was the Sumter County State Bank, its name still somewhat legible in the mosaic tile, like an ancient ruin, fading away but still holding on to remind us of its past glory. Just a block away is another surviving building. Built in 1922, this was the local grocery. Here, people would come for things that they couldn't make themselves at home, like coffee or sugar. I can almost hear the bell ring as the entrance door opens and closes. The booming voice of the owner, welcoming in a familiar face, or reminding Mrs. Owens to say hello to her husband for him. A recently restored ghost sign for Oh Boy Bread is a testament that the people of Webster respect those memories of the place they call home. Time marches on, and the needs of the residents of Webster along with it. Now, modern stores not far from here have replaced these old relics. The old railroad depot is long gone now, but more people than ever before call Webster home. Living a quiet life away from the traffic and chaos of the cities and suburbs. Webster, Florida. Another reason I take the back roads. I throttle down and ease into Tarpon Springs, Florida. Cruising along the main street, this stretch is like a time capsule. A mixture of Victorian-era buildings with a touch of Mediterranean revival, with their ornate facades and new bright-colored murals, standing shoulder to shoulder with Floridian charm. The buildings now house antique shops, art galleries, and cozy coffee spots where locals swap stories over strong brews. Typical in the revived main streets in so many towns across the country. From the bustling main street on Tarpon Avenue to the popular tourist destination on the sponge docks on the Anclote River. These streets were laid out in the late 1800s, drawing settlers and dreamers alike. And now they stand as a testament to how waves of newcomers folded into the American narrative, adapting, building, and adding their flavors to this eclectic mix without losing their essence. This isn't your postcard Florida. There's no neon-lit white sand beaches or crowded theme parks. This is the real deal. A slice of Americana that's equal parts salty air, history, and the quiet hum of lives built on the edge of the sea. I'm on the hunt for old main streets that tell the stories, the kind you feel. And here, in this unassuming town, the story is all about the sponges. Yeah, sponges. Those squishy things you use to scrub your sink and wash your car. But trust me, it goes deeper than that. I turned down Dodecanese Boulevard heading to the sponge docks, where the Anclo River meets the Gulf. The air's thick with the scent of grilled octopus and fresh baklava, wafting from family-run joints that look like they've been here forever. Back in the late 1800s, this place was just a sleepy fishing village until somebody figured out the Gulf bottom was filled with natural sponges. Premium ones. The kind that fetched top dollar in a world before synthetics. But harvesting them? That was brutal work, diving deep without much more than a helmet and a prayer. Enter the Greeks. Immigrants from the Dodecanese Islands, where the sea's been their life for centuries. They started trickling in around 1905, drawn by whispers of opportunity across the Atlantic. These weren't tourists. They were hard men, sponge divers honed by the Aegean, bringing their suits, their skills, and their unyielding grit. Soon the docks were alive with Greek voices, the clang of diving gear, and the thrill of the hunt underwater. They turned Tarpon Springs into the sponge capital of the world, risking their lives in those murky depths for a shot at something better. But red tides came and went, nearly wiping out the industry. But the Greeks, they adapted, diversified into tourism and fishing, keeping the heart of the sponge docks beating. Riding along the Dodecanese Boulevard now, past the restaurants and gift shops selling those same sponges, it's like stepping into a living postcard from the old country. The immigrants' descendants are still here, running the boats, the restaurants, the whole show. They've woven their threads into the fabric of this town, turning what could have been a forgotten backwater into a vibrant destination. I passed by the famous Hella's Greek restaurant. I was here before, back when I was just a kid on a family vacation. Hella's hasn't changed one bit. It's exactly as it was all those years ago. To me, the magic of Tarpon Springs is the celebration of a community's history, and that change for change's sake isn't always the way forward. It's the spanakopita next to the key lime pie. I seek out these old main streets for the stories of the past, to remind us of our own stories. Tarpon Springs lingers like a good meal, satisfying, a bit salty, full of layers, finished off with a shot of ouzo and a toast of opah. My best friend Rodney and I would ride all morning on the trails through the woods. A Kawasaki KDX 80 dirt bike, 3 months of summer break, and some loose change in our pockets. For a 12-year-old, it doesn't seem like there could be anything better. We would usually make our way to a worn-down old general store, simply known as Russell's. Its wooden structure, grayed and weathered. Inside, we would make a beeline straight to the old Coca-Cola refrigerated chest that held ice-cold glass bottles of Coke. We would each grab a bottle, open it on the side of the chest, and sit on the front steps of the store. Best Coke I ever had. We would take the empty bottles back inside and return them for the nickel deposit, and use that nickel for 2 pieces of bubble gum. The penny would go in the cup for someone to use. Sometimes the nickels would be added to the change in our pockets for 75 cents worth of gas. Enough gas to ride for the rest of the day. When I saw the pictures of the Richloam General Store in Richloam, Florida, I had to see it in person. This store is a time capsule of a bygone era. Not so bygone that I don't have memories of my own of a general store just like this one. A memory that combines a motorcycle, a good friend, and an old general store that served its community for 100 years. All 3 are gone now, but sitting in front of this Richloam General Store makes it feel like yesterday. I'm glad I stopped by. Just another reason I take the back roads. I've been to Micanopy, words immortalized in the song A Mind with a Heart of Its Own by the late great Tom Petty. I'm heading north out of Tampa, making my way to the town of Micanopy, passing through the little town of Brooksville, with the old courthouse standing proud in the town square. I'm taking Highway 41. This old highway was the main north-south route before modern toll roads and interstates were built. I'll pass through Brooksville, Floral City, Inverness, and when I get to Williston, I'll turn east towards Micanopy. I've wanted to visit Micanopy for a long time. It was the setting of a Hollywood movie starring Michael J. Fox back in the 90s. The perfect setting for a southern quiet little town. With Hollywood choosing it as the quintessential southern town backdrop, and Tom Petty mentioning it in one of his songs, I had to see for myself the allure of Micanopy. As I passed through Floral City, this motorcycle shop caught my eye. Located in an old gas station, it doesn't get much more postcard than this, complete with antique gas pumps. Just past the motorcycle shop, I ride through a natural tunnel made from the branches of the live oak trees with their Spanish moss. Another half an hour north, I enter the town of Inverness. I'm surprised how busy it is here, for a place so far removed from a metropolitan area. I circle the courthouse in the town square. Like Brooksville, the courthouse in Inverness is the center of town. That was the template used back when these towns were first being built. The shops in the town square aren't just your typical thrift stores and knick-knack boutiques that you see in so many revived main streets across the U.S. Inverness actually has some nice restaurants and pubs. My route takes me into the middle of a town called Williston. This is where I'll head east towards Micanopy. Again, I'm surprised at how busy this little out-of-the-way town is. As I get closer to Micanopy, it feels like I'm warping through time in a way. I pass rustic wood cabins built a century ago, and farmers hauling hay to the local feed store. Closer into town, I pass quaint houses, complete with white picket fences, the aspiration of many young Americans in the mid-20th century. I enter through a side street as if stepping onto a theater stage from behind the curtain. I remember some of these buildings from the pictures I've seen. But being here, under the large live oak trees, hearing the live music fill the air, the visitors walking from shop to shop, it reminds me that this is why we actually visit these places in person.
It would have been like still $89.
Micanopy has its share of boutique shops and cafes, Victorian houses, and a southern charm aura that hangs in the air. I've always been a fan of Tom Petty's music, and now I too can say I've been to Micanopy. It's just another reason I take the back roads. I'm riding into Gibsonton, Florida, just south of Tampa, a town where the carnies and showmen once hung their hats and waited for the winter up north to pass. The perfect place to do repairs and maintenance on the tilt-a-whirls, Ferris wheels, and the trucks that towed them, and get some well-deserved rest and relaxation from 6 months of life on the road. If motorcycles are about freedom and rebellion, what better pit stop than the last haven for the ultimate outsiders? The locals call it Gibtown, once known as Showtown, USA. Back in the day, this was utopia for those who didn't fit the mold, like the giant man and his wife, the half-woman. They ran the campsite here, baked pies, and even ran the fire department. Little people got custom low counters at the post office. And yeah, you could keep elephants and lions in your backyard. Zoning laws be damned. It was a place where the extraordinary wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. A town of 100 sideshow human oddities and thousands of carnies, Gibtown was home until it was time to load up and get the show back on the road. Keeping the memories and stories alive is the International Independent Showman Museum here in Gibtown. 54,000 square feet of memorabilia of a bygone era. Carnival rides, held together with grit and a prayer. Midways with games to win prizes, fried dough and cotton candy, and of course, the sideshows. Full of human oddities, known back then as freaks, where lines formed of people eager to spend a nickel to see the bearded lady and the monkey boy. Yes, it was exploitation, but this was a different time. Many of the sideshow attractions were thankful for the carnival. It gave them a purpose, a community, and a steady paycheck. There were also burlesque shows and fortune tellers that always knew just the right thing to say to a paying customer. Of course, this motorcycle caught my eye, an old Harley-Davidson Sprint, used in the immensely popular attraction called the Wall of Death. If you picture it being ridden by a weathered, tough-as-nails biker, you'd be mistaken. This bike was ridden for decades by a young woman named Lillian LaFrance. A runaway at 19, Lillian joined the carnival and never looked back. But Gibtown is shrinking. Actually, the only town in Florida doing so. No more carousel factories, no more elephants and big cats in the backyards, waiting on the next season where the entire town loads the trailers and takes to the highway. There's not much to Gibtown these days as neighboring suburbia has swallowed up what little remained. Standing in front of the launcher for the human cannonball, with its vivid colors and rocket appearance, I can just imagine the look on the children's faces when this rolled into their town. I sit here at the Showman's Cemetery, thinking about the lives that these people must have had. No one got rich being a carny or a showman, but they were one big family, and their adventurous spirit lives on here in Gibtown. Gibtown and the Showman Museum are a reminder of progress and social views, but also of a time of innocence. A time when a traveling carnival would pull into rural town USA and entertain an entire town for a week. Gibsonton, Florida. Another reason I take the back roads. Hugging the coastline of Central Florida, I'm riding along the remnants of the old Dixie Highway into Aripeka, a sleepy fishing village named after Chief Aripeka, a Seminole chieftain and warrior who is thought to have lived in this area. The 2020 census counted 320 residents in Arepica, a population that really hasn't changed that much over the last century. It would be easy to ride right through this little village without even realizing it. There's a small church, a few houses along the main road, an old post office, and a general store. But there's also a story or two. It may look like one of those tiny houses popular with a new generation, exploring a minimal existence lifestyle, but this was actually the Arepica post office from 1952 through 1962. It still has the counter and the sorting shelves. A new post office was built next door, but is closed for renovation following last year's Hurricane Debbie. Arepica is known to be a frequent vacation spot for the baseball legend Babe Ruth. He came here to fish, drink, and escape the pressures of his celebrity status. This Arepica trivia is part of its story that is kept alive at the local historical museum and library, a community-maintained point of pride. Over the years, Arepica became home for many artists. Inspired by the landscape and its somewhat isolated location, renowned artists James Rosenquist and Leslie Newman called Arepica home. I cross over the Hammock Creek Bridge that connects to the tiny Palm Island, home to crab fishermen and the iconic Norfleet Fish Camp General Store, simply known as Carl's Store to the locals. 80 years old and still family-owned, this general store provides convenience for the local population. On the north side of the island is another bridge where neighbors congregate with fishing poles, a cooler full of drinks, and folding chairs to watch the sunset. When I visit these places, I just like to sit and reflect on the lives that were here 50 years ago, 75 years ago, even 100 years ago. What was life like? What's life like here today? Life is simple in Arepica. No traffic jams, no sitting at red lights, no strip malls or fast food joints. And that's exactly the way the people that live here want it to be. Simple. Their little corner of paradise. Some people feed off the energy of the big cities, the chaos. Some people like suburbia with its community vibe. And it seems like the folks here in Arepica, they're just happy with a little house, a fishing pole, and some water. I think that's pretty cool. Arepica, Florida. Another reason I take the back roads.